I ask that we all pause for a moment of reflection. On December 28th, the American Legion lost a past national commander, and I lost a friend and a mentor. Past National Commander Keith Krul was a U.S. Army veteran and a member of Post 184 in Fenimore, Wisconsin. He led our organization during a tense time for our country. The Soviet Union shot down a civilian airline. The U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut was destroyed by a terrorist, and American servicemen liberated Grenada from communist aggressors. Commander Krul appeared before a commission on Central America chaired by former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. From a political viewpoint, he said, "The United States has an interest in promoting the continuation of democratic values." In short, he was a Cold Warrior at a pivotal moment of the Cold War. This was not an easy stance to take in progressive Wisconsin. But I think history proves that Commander Krul and the American Legion had it right about the cruelties of communist regimes. Keith's years also coincided with the 40th anniversary of the original GI Bill. He said at the time that the bill was a reminder that, quote, "we are here to serve," unquote. And serve he did. He advocated strongly for our youth programs, Agent Orange, awareness and better care for elderly veterans. Thank you, Keith. You will be missed by your friends and your wonderful family. Please join me in a moment of silence for this dedicated and accomplished Legionnaire. Past National Commander Keith Krul. We also lost another extraordinary Legionnaire on Saturday, a prisoner of war, career naval officer, and American patriot, Senator John McCain. Our condolences and thoughts are with his family. Thank you. Our next speaker has had a truly amazing Marine Corps career. He served 8 months as a sniper in the Gulf War, completed 2 combat deployments in Alabar Province, and served as NATO Regional Commander, Southwest, Sergeant Major for Nimruz in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. His rise through the ranks was largely due to his gentle and nurturing leadership style. It is a style that could only begin to blossom at Parris Island, South Carolina. In 2011, he was named the 17th Sergeant Major of the U.S. Marine Corps. He served in that position until his retirement from the Corps after 34 years in 2015. He still serves in many ways, including as military advisor for Veterans United Home Loans, director of the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, director of the Young Marines, and ambassador at large for the Marine Corps League. He is a member of American Legion Post 18 in Bloomington, Indiana. He co-authored the leadership anthology, Breaches the Summit, with 5 other senior enlisted leaders from the different military branches. Ladies and gentlemen, retired Sergeant Major of the United States Marine Corps, Micheal P. Barrett.
Hoorah! Thank you, ma'am. Would you send a copy of that introduction to my mother-in-law? I want her to know how awesome I am. You know, my wife and I have been married 36 years this past August 4th, and she still thinks I'm a dirtbag. Good morning, and thank you for that wonderful reception and this incredible opportunity. As the Spirit was 100 years ago, so it is today. The start of today's events, the call to order by Commander Rowan was truly grand, parading the unfurled standard of freedom and independence and our allegiance to them, followed by a moment of reflection to those who have not made it home yet or who have given their all, and a blessing from our national chaplain, always a reminder as to who we are and our humble beginnings. Adam and Eve were the primitive hunting band. The hunting band became the tribe, and the tribe became the army. Our warrior ethos evolved from carrying a spear and throwing rocks from an animal skin-wearing hunting band to today's American warrior hunter breed. Every warrior's superior qualities proceeds from this: their courage, their selflessness, their sacrifice to one's comrades, and their will to bear adversity. It all comes from the hunting band's need to endure, praying for America, their warrior breed, to endure. And Roy Helms, our National Sergeant at Arms, leading us in our solemn vow, our promise, that we would be faithful, unwavering, and unbowed to malevolence. Was it not our very first official act of the school day? Standing beside a desk in some classroom in America with the flag next to the blackboard, with our hands pressed over our hearts, our eyes intent on the flag, we pledged our allegiance. With the respect and awe that our young minds didn't quite understand yet, we made a promise: not to kneel when it gets tough, but to stand undivided when it does. Our deep social and spiritual beliefs, our robust patriotism, represents a country with a moral imperative: liberty and freedoms protected by rights, and a corps of Marines that stands shoulder to shoulder with the strongest army, the most powerful sea forces, and an air force that provides the full spectrum of sea, air, and land supremacy and lethality. Ladies and gentlemen, go to sleep tonight knowing that everything is going to be just fine. And my heart is happy for many reasons, none more so than to be asked to be a part of this legion, this legacy. My efforts in drafting thoughts for today started nearly 4 decades ago after meeting a Marine recruiter named Gunnery Sergeant Ron Swan. And after standing inside of a MEP station before a commissioned officer of the armed forces with the American flag in my hand held high, I gave my oath of enlistment. I wore the cloth of this nation for 12,410 days, and I have things to remember, every single one of them. The second you bust a hatch in my office and you walk into it, there's a picture staring you dead in the face. It's a picture depicting hand-to-hand combat in the wheat fields of Bella Wood, June 1918, World War I, prominently showing a Marine running the business end of his bayonet through the chest of his enemy. The example of professional steadiness and personal valor. And affixed to that, on a wonderfully etched brass placard I have, and then I heard a voice saying, "Whom shall I send and who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I, send me," from the book of Isaiah. It reminds me to think of Sergeant Andy Nowacki, who was killed in action on February the 26th, 2005. You see, Andy's verve for life, his love for family and friends, his courage, his humor and wit, his selfless giving way, his character, his example, he was the role model. So it made sense to me that Andy always rode in the turret of the lead vehicle manning the 50 cal every time a convoy was dispatched outside the wire. It's not that he didn't trust anyone else. It was because he was fearless, because he was always setting the example of professional steadiness and personal valor, always demonstrating his love and his commitment to and for his brothers and sisters in arms, selflessly relieving them of the possibility that something would go wrong. And greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. He was a Marine. It makes him a warrior hunter. He was also a police officer in Northeast Ohio. He was a first responder. He was a peacemaker. He changed lives. He saved lives. And I believe if he were standing beside me right now up here on this stage, he would say, "Sergeant Major, I was just doing my job. I was doing my duty," intimating that he was ordinary. And I submit to you that he was so much more. He was extraordinary. And just like all of our fallen, they were extraordinary. Pericles, a statesman, a philosopher, and a warrior for democracy, in 431 BC wrote and gave the great funeral oration. He asked that his fellow citizens every day to look upon the physical might and moral efficacy of our country and become lovers of her. And when you have appreciated her greatness, consider that all this has been established by brave men who knew their duty and were moved to great deeds by a sense of honor. Today, each of us enjoys the gift of freedom, preserved for by men and women whose courage to serve presented them with defining moments of their own. These stalwart warriors whose sacrifice that we admire and memorialize every day laid down their lives or faced a life-altering threat, not to uphold one moment, but one country. Carrying on the legacy of all who wear and all who have worn our nation's cloth is a moral imperative. You know what's important to people by what they spend their time on. I like to refer to that as character revealed. And the Spirit of Service Award is so much more than an annual event. It, too, is a moral imperative. And Thomas Robbins, a chaplain, he wrote in 1822 about why societies honor certain occasions of importance. He also talked about character, virtue, and patriotism. He said, "The manner and character of a community are essential to national prosperity. He who loves his family, who possesses a disposition of charity and benevolence towards his neighbors and acquaintances, who conducts with integrity and kindness in all his ordinary interactions with his fellow men, who seeks to do good in all as he has opportunity, is a patriot, is a friend to their community and to their country." And author Samuel Smiles, I think, sums it up best when he talks about our Spirit of Service Award recipients, Sergeant Honeycutt, Petty Officer Wilson, Sergeant Hampton, Petty Officer Gogo, Staff Sergeant Hyon, and Staff Sergeant Andrews. He said that the great high road of human welfare lies along the old highway of steadfast well-doing. No matter where these warrior hunters are, they make things happen. And we have soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guardsmen, in all 6 geographical combatant commanders' areas of responsibility doing the heavy lifting for our nation right now. They are forward deployed, forward engaged, shaping, training, deterring aggression, and responding to every crisis, conflict, and contingency around the world. Prepared, ready, and standing at the door of crisis with the people, with the tools, and with the training to knock on that door diplomatically. They can pick that lock skillfully, or they can smash it in violently. They're doing it all. From humanitarian assistance and disaster relief in the Pacific Rim to counterinsurgency in the Middle East or along our own borders, providing relief efforts to those who've been affected by a hurricane or fires that are scorching our own backyards, or just lending a hand to a neighbor. They live hard, they train hard, they fight hard, and they provide our nation with a capability to contain a crisis, to fill a gap, or to hold a line. They do not know when or where or who they're going to have to fight or help next, but they and their families have to be ready for them to leave tonight. And saying goodbye again, again, and again is a hell of a thing to have to endure. They intuitively know the joy and sense of purpose that only comes through great challenges and subordination to a calling greater than self. They know what it means to keep company with the finest men and women in a world under the toughest conditions. They follow their battle colors into harm's way, and they do so without having to ask why. And at the very center of a 21st century calling to service, the servant leader, the warrior hunter stands up. The motivation that binds us is our respect for and our commitment to those who have chosen to put their lives before others, upon whose young shoulders freedom, liberty, our American ideals ultimately rests. Now, I have sat and I have stood with presidents, other world leaders, members of Congress, ambassadors, cabinet secretaries, impressive in their own rights and accomplishments, but none of them have impressed me more than the young man, the young woman who subordinates their needs for others, putting it all out there and leaving it all on the battlefield. I've witnessed a 19-year-old Lance Corporal throw his body on top of his platoon commander in an L-shaped ambush in Sac Louis, Iraq, because Lance Corporal Ian Dollard recognized the fact that Lieutenant Brisker was not going to survive a 4th hit to his already bullet-riddled body. Sergeant Mary Ann Miller, a member of the female engagement team on patrol when a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device killed and wounded 50. She placed herself at the point of friction, anticipating the complex attack that normally follows, with shrapnel wounds to her torso, her arms, and her legs. She ultimately helped carry the dead and the wounded out of the impact zone up a hill to a casualty evacuation site. I've watched a corpsman run out into the middle of no man's land during an hellacious firefight in Fouillette because he simply heard, "Corpsman up!" Wounded, he still dragged his wounded Marine brother to safety. Sergeant Joe Reitzman was leading a partnered Afghan National Police patrol in Garmser in the southern portion of the Helmand province, crossing a river, when he looked over his shoulder and he saw an Afghan police officer swept away in the current. Joe Reitzman dropped his helmet and weapon and went right in after him. Despite the width, the depth, the speed of the current, the weight of 2 men, Joe Reitzman drowned that day. What's profound about that is Joe Reitzman went into the water after a man whose name he didn't know and a language he didn't speak because, damn it, it was the right thing to do. Indomitable in crisis. Indomitable in crisis, fearsome in battle, generous in their nature and humble in their manner, a minute does not pass where I am not wowed by the selflessness, the courage, and the endurance of our 21st century warriors and protectors. That is character revealed. There is nothing stronger than the heart of a volunteer. Thank you. God bless you. And until we meet again, always faithful.